Hey everyone. There are several different versions of this video, so make sure that you've clicked on the correct one for your instrument. In this video, I'm going to go over how to read and finger the first notes that we learn on our instrument that are found in your book on page 4. There's also a note guide that I want you to follow along with called Our First Notes, and there's a link to it down below in the lesson on Google Classroom. If you're watching this from YouTube, you're gonna have to go back to Google Classroom. Otherwise, you're looking down below and there's just the description. So I'll have the links there that you need so that you can view the right information for your instrument. This version of the video is for the clarinet. Now it assumes that you've already watched the videos on how to put your clarinet together and how to make the first sounds, in which the teacher in that video shows you how to make sounds on just the mouthpiece of the clarinet. So in this one, I got to make sure that you know exactly where your fingers need to live, and then I'll show you the fingerings for the first 3 notes that we learn on page 4 in our book. All right. Now, for starters, we need to know where our fingers live on our instrument. The back of our instrument has just one hole in it. It's our thumb. Our left thumb covers that hole. And then there's 3 holes in the upper joint, and our pointer, middle, and ring finger cover those holes. We don't right now want to push any of the buttons that are on there. We just want to cover the holes, and those holes usually have rings around them. Yes, you will push the rings down, but don't push any of the things that are in between those holes. So thumb, 1, 2, 3 in the left hand, and my right hand, 1, 2, 3 on the bottom joint, and then my thumb goes under the thumb rest, just with the tip of my thumb where the thumbnail is under that. I don't want to stick my thumb through, or it puts my right hand in a bad position. Now, we don't always cover all the holes, but those are the holes where they live. Our fingers then are free to hover and push these other buttons that are around our pinkies. You're not going to need any pinky keys for today's lesson. It's also really important that you do remember which is your left and which is your right hand. Some people say, but I'm left-handed, I should play it the other way. And that's not the case, because the instrument isn't designed that way. Our pinkies need to be able to reach these pinky keys. If I were to hold my clarinet with the opposite hands, my pinkies can't reach all the keys that they need to. And I know someone's going to try and prove that they can, but if you do, you're bending your hand into an awkward shape, and you're probably causing leaks that shouldn't be leaking in those holes that need to be completely covered. So I'm afraid the only way, no matter which is your dominant hand, the only way to play the clarinet is to have your left hand on top and your right hand on bottom. This is the Our First Notes page for the clarinet. We'll use this in this lesson, and actually for a lot at the beginning of the year. For right now, you can ignore the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and DRMFS. I'll talk about those in a different lesson. What we need to pay attention to right now is the notes up here and these diagrams at the bottom. These diagrams show us which holes need to be covered, which buttons we need to press in order to play the given notes. A circle that's filled in, that's black, means we have to cover that hole or press that button. And if we see circles that are white, those are buttons that we don't press or holes that we don't cover. So let's start with the first note we're going to learn in our book, and that's G. I know that this note is G because, well, I can see the G is printed in the middle of it, and you'll notice that on your book as well, that a lot of the notes at the beginning have the letters printed in the middle. But more importantly, I know this is a G because it lives on the second line of the staff. Every note you ever see that's on this line of the staff is going to be a G. If you haven't watched the video on note names yet, make sure you watch that, because it's going to be really, really important. So is the drill that we did last week on naming notes using musictheory.net. Now, the first note we're playing, G, uses this diagram here, and we can see from the diagram there is nothing filled in black. So when we play a G, we don't press any buttons at all. Now, some people are worried that they're going to drop the clarinet. If I'm playing a G on my clarinet, I'm holding it with the tip of my thumb, is pushing up in the thumb rest, and it's pushing up against my top teeth. My other hands don't need to touch it at all. So make sure that the fingers of your hands are hovering over the holes, because that will change whether the note is in tune or not. And don't try and put your fingers other places to hold the instrument while you're playing it. The weight of your instrument is carried by your right thumb, pressing up against your teeth. If I have my mouth formed the way that I showed you in last week's video, or that the practicing musician teacher showed you, then when you hold the instrument correctly and don't push any buttons, you'll get a G, and it sounds like this. Now, if you go to play that note and you get a really high squeak instead, you're probably squeezing too hard or you're letting your teeth touch the reed. If you're not getting any sounds at all, you're probably squeezing too hard with your bottom lip against the reed, or you have too little mouthpiece in your mouth. So my teeth are touching right about there. My bottom lip is touching right about here. Now, the fingerings on the clarinet are pretty simple at the beginning, so we can go through this quickly. The next note is F, which is in the bottom space of the staff. I know it's an F because it has the letter F on it, and because it's in that bottom space. Only one circle is filled in black. That is our thumb on the top joint of the instrument. All of the other holes need to remain open, and my fingers need to hover over those holes. My F will sound like this. E lives in the bottom line of the staff. It uses just 2 fingers to play. My thumb and my pointer finger. Again, all of my other fingers have to hover in the right place. I can't move my hands to grab onto the instrument somewhere. I have to leave them hovering over the holes. Here is an E. And since we're on this page, I'm going to show you the other fingerings as well. A D uses just your thumb plus the first 2 fingers. Thumb 1, 2, like this, and should sound like this. C uses my thumb plus the first 3 fingers. It's the lowest note in this page and sounds like this. I'm going to play each of those 5 notes one at a time now so you can hear them one after the other. Notice that G is the highest and the notes get lower and lower and lower as I add fingers. G, F, E, D, C. Now, if you're having trouble making any of those notes and something squeaky comes out, the most likely culprit is you've got too much mouthpiece in your mouth, you're blowing too hard, or you've got some sort of a leak you've created by not covering the hole all the way or by accidentally pushing other buttons that are around there. So make sure that your fingers are completely covering the holes with the squishy part of your finger and that you're not accidentally touching other buttons with your hands as you're holding the instrument. All right, now watch the next video on how to play these notes in the context of page 4. Good luck.